Hey, so this video, I'm going to try to create a flickering lights in Ventuz. So this example, I've done a tutorial on how to do this in Blender, and we're just using the EV renderer. As you can see, we get these flickering lights. What I want to do is create a similar flickering lights, and we're probably using something like particle systems. So we're going to jump straight into Ventuz. Let's go, boom, open up, bam. So we're going to have to create a new scene. Empty scene. Okay. The next one, I'm just going to close Blender. I don't need it open in the background. It's great though. You know, can't wait until there's like a live link if it's. I heard it was on the roadmap, but we'll see. I hope so. It'll be fantastic. Anyways, what I want to do is add an axis. Actually, before I add an axis, let's click on our 3D root node. And we want to set up our what render engine we're going to use. So we want to use the high dynamic range, and I'm going to turn on bloom, and we might as well put these settings in right now so we don't need to do them later. So bloom, and I'm going to change the threshold here to 0 on the bloom settings, and on the amount I'm going to set it to something like 0.5. We can adjust this and play around with this later, but for now, so I just don't forget, I'll just turn those on. Okay, so now we're in HDR mode, as you can see, high dynamic range on our scene. What I'm going to do is add an axis. Go back to adding an axis, and we want to add a particle system. So we're going to go to geometry, over here, geometry, and we want a particle system. Now, there's nothing, you ain't gonna see nothing on screen because there's no modules or anything on there. It's just an empty particle system, nothing connected to it, nothing added on. So we need to add some modules. Let's add a grid. So we're going to start with a grid. I'm going to change some settings on the grid. So on the Y, I'm going to say 0. On the X, I don't know, let's space it out. We're going to space these objects out. So let's say I'll put 3 for now, and we'll see how it looks. So we're going to have to add a mesh. So I'm going to go mesh. We've got the mesh there. Now you can see that they're not spaced out enough, so I can click on my grid and space these out on the size X. I'll drag this, so maybe let's say 15 from now. Of course, anytime you can adjust this grid, you know, you don't need to be locked into those values. So anyway, I'll set 15, so we've got nice even spacing. Change this cube to a cylinder. Now of course this doesn't have to be a cylinder, it can be any object, you know, it can be like, it doesn't have to be those light tubes, they could be cubes, they could be spheres, they could be whatever mesh you want to apply to it. Like, you can swap those out to whatever shape you want. Anyway, so I'm going to add a little bevel on the end just to make it a little bit nicer, so you can see slight bevel, not too much. And on the size here, let's say set the size of Z to 14, and get nice long tubes. And on the transform, I'm just going to do simple, no actually I'll just do manual transform, and I'll rotate this towards us along the X, so just set this to 90, so now they're facing forward, so we've got these tubes kind of that we can use. Okay, and that's all we need to do for this. So you know, you can collapse these, you can collapse the transform and the cylinder. Actually, keep the cylinder open because we need to add the material. So material, what we're going to do is, instead, we're not going to say material, we're going to choose property, and we're going to reference the material here in our content window. Okay, so we're going to get a material, search for material, spacebar, and then hit material, and I'll call this will be our light on. Okay, I'll make a light off as well. I'll do that in a second. We'll copy this for the light off, we'll duplicate this, so we'll just copy this after we've done this one and then paste and then edit this one. Anyway, so what we want to do is change the materials on this. So I'm going to go here, change this to Fong, and add a bit of texture. I'm going to, actually before I add the texture, I'm going to first say I want a rim light white, and we can't see anything right now, so for us to see what's happening with this material, we can link this material. So we scroll down to our material property that we changed it to material properties. and link this material reference to this light. Now you can see the room lights there. It's white on white, so it's pretty hard to see, but it's there. If I change this color, for example, to red, you can see there's a room light there. I'll leave it as white for now. You can of course tweak this later on and whatever colors you like. Now I'm going to add a base with an alpha. Okay, and this base with alpha will give us this kind of, we're going for this like glossy look. So you want a black and white texture. Now it can be whatever you like, so I've used these textures in other videos before. You know, it could be like a black and white HDL texture, something small. It could be even something like simple, entirely up to you. I've done stuff in paint where I just done a cube and a square and then just use that, but yeah, entirely up to you. Now it looks kind of funny, right? Well, yeah, you can just change our mapping. I'm going to change this to like world space reflection. You know, just looks a bit nice. And now we've got a glossy look. Of course, you can change this to wrap as well, and you can like play around with the scale of that until you get like the gloss you want. Okay, once you're happy, we've got this kind of glassy tube. Okay, so at this point here, what I'm going to do is copy this material before we go any further with this one. Copy this and paste. So this is kind of the state that we want our light to be off on. So I'm going to call this light off. This is the copy. So we don't need to work on do anything else to this light off. So the light on, now we're going to add another material. We're going to add a texture and we're going to say emissive. And this will be with the light on. So that's why we have a light on and light off. So emissive, I'm going to use a gradient. I'm going to choose the first gradient. Okay. And you can see we've got this nice gradient because we've already set up our bloom to be turned on. You can see when we apply the emissive part here where it's white is got a slight glow to it. And if I was to go to the material here and on this where it says emissive, where the amount, if I was to increase this to say something ridiculous like 1500, you can see this part glows up here, and down here we don't have any glow. So this is fantastic. This is what we want. So we want to, we want this tube to glow, but we also want to see that it has some kind of, glassy tube shape. We don't want it to be, boring. So I'm going to edit this material. So I'm going to move this like so, and make this black. And now you can see we've got this kind of glass tube, and it's lit in the middle. Now you can, of course, tweak this. Oh, let me delete that one. You can tighten this, or you can move it around. We can also change mapping, so we can go mapping, 3D mapping, and we can also do world space reflection, and play around with that and see what happens. So remove this in tighter. So depending on where we're looking, so if it was to move this around, you get a completely different look. It's just up to you, the look you're going for, if it's fixed or not. For now, I'll go back to that material and I'll change that mapping. Let's try spherical, and scale. I might go back to default. Go back to simple, default. Well, not default. What was it? Default? I messed up the mapping. Let's go to world space reflection. There we go. I'll go back to world space reflection. There we go. Okay. Now the gradient itself, if I wanna, I don't wanna have to click on this and go here and, then open this and edit this gradient. So to make my life easier, I'm going to use the gradient texture here. So then here we can add the colors, and we don't need to, if we do it here, like if I was to edit this and add this, and then this is black here and this is white. Now I can change the color here, and I don't have to keep on going into that texture. So I'm going to use the gradient outside of this, so I'm going to link this gradient to here. So where I've got loader, just texture default, and just link that straight in there. So now I don't need to edit this. So as you can see, now I can go in here and I can tighten this. It just gives me the ability to edit that. I can change the colors, as you can see. You don't have to go into that material. Hopefully that makes sense. And of course, like I said, you can play around with space reflection, whatever you want. Play around with that reflection of that light itself. Kind of cool. You can even animate them if you wanted to zoom. But I'm just kind of going off track, but yeah. I'm just trying to find a look I like this, and probably let's say 2500. You can see we get a nice, really nice glow, but we also keep the reflections. Okay, but again, when we start playing, moving around, it might work how we expect it, you know, because yeah, see, when we rotate it, we don't want that. So perhaps not. Maybe we're not going to use 3D mapping. Sorry, kind of gone off. Let's try model space. Try planar. Let's see. Let's scale this up. Scale this massive and then move the position up on Y. Perhaps that's a nicer look. There we go. I'll like that. And if we move it around, because it's on triplanar model space, it actually works well. So maybe triplanar with model space. This is just experiment, you know. Like I said, I've not planned this. I'm just kind of trying to recreate something. But yeah, trying to recreate something I created in something else, but you know, used with different tools. But yeah, anyway, I like it. Anyway, and of course, like you said. Anyway, I'm going. Like I said, I'm going off topic. Anyway, so we've got our light on and our light off. Now, our light off doesn't have anything, so we need to create another mesh. So what I'm going to do is just say clone this existing mesh. Yeah. So all the properties of the cylinder will be the same as this one. I didn't say clone with binding, so you have the option to clone with binding. However, I don't want it because I want this to have its own material, and this material reference will go to light off, like so. So now you can see the light off here on this is covering the light on. It's above it, right? And what we want to do is say, oh, we want a way of saying turn one off and turn the other one on. So we're going to use a texture. Boom. And the texture we're going to use again, a gradient. However, I'm going to use this one, this black and white reflection 2 texture. Place this in between. In the ramp, you got the min and max. So I'm going to go minus on one way and go plus on the other. So now I believe if I go one way here, actually is it this way? And we move the scale. You can see we're starting to affect it. However, might have to swap these two meshes around. Let's see. I might be wrong, but there we go. That's what we want. So now you can see. So I swapped the order of these. So this mesh goes in front, this one behind. So just the opposite way. Now we've got one off and one on. Cool. Now on the light off, of course we can tweak this. I might want to change that specular. Double check. This is correct. Might not even, this may not be affecting it. Let me double check. I'll turn this off. Does this actually? Yeah, it does. So it does have an effect on it. Okay. Sorry. Oh, we don't want it to affect color. We want it just to affect the alpha. That's where I'm going. So don't forget to change your target. So I was trying to figure out like why was leaving this there was like, if I go back to the color one, we saw why was it leaving this, and it's because it's doing color and alpha, but we just want the alpha. So there we go. So now I can ramp this down, and you can see I've gone into the minus and then ramped the Y up. Now if I move the scale, you can see now we're flickering on and off the lights. There we go, we've got flickering lights. Cool, right? And of course you can animate a mover on this, no problem. So if you want, you can say, I don't know, go linear 1, and that will animate. I'll reset that. I won't play around with the scale, but instead maybe I'll use the rotation here on this texture, for example. So I'll add the rotation 360 linear, and I'll pop this out. Okay, so I'll just call this flickering. I'll rename this flickering. Apologies, it's going really fast because it's doing it in a second. So if I say 10 seconds, you know, it'll flicker over 10 seconds. And the reason I exposed this is now we have the speed, so we can control the flickering speed here. We've got the gradient that we can control the color, and now we can group this all up. So you know, we can merge this into an object if we want, like this, and then expose out, say, just the settings that we want. So we don't have to dive in, open up this, click this, you know. So if I want duration, I can just expose that. I just want that one color for this setting, and then on my grid all I want is how many, for example, and the size, and that Y I'll just set that to 0 as well because we're not using it. And now if I go back out, I can change, I can tweak that without going in. So I can say, okay, 15 seconds, and I'll say, okay, I want this to be orange, you know, and you know, I don't need to click on multiple things, and you know, I've exposed what I needed. Expose that size, expand, add more lights, you know, and we have nice, you know, nice lights. What do you think? I don't know. And that's just using the particle system, so you got nice neon lights that you can thing. Now what we can do is click on our bloom as well. Like I said, we can go back to that, so we can go to the bloom settings, and like I said, if you want to bump that amount up a tiny bit, you can, and now you get that nice, you know, you might want to increase the diameter or lower it, entirely up to you. I would say keep it at like 5, maybe increase the gain. There we go. But it depends on the look you're going for, to be honest. Entirely up to you. Just play around with the glow, that the look you're trying to get with that glow. I'm not sure how easy it is to see. Like on my monitor, I can see a glow. I don't know if it's capturing it well enough or not. There you go. Now what we can do is go back into our particle system. So I'll just go back into that container, and we can add some noise into this. So you know, we don't want it, if we don't want it uniform, like just a grid, you know, boom, drop that noise in front of our grid here. Now we're affecting the position. As you can see, it's already affected. So if I increase this, the octaves, like so, something like this, and we increase this amplitude, yeah, this nice, you know, you can get some cool effects, really easy. There we go. Got nice lighting effects without even doing anything. Yeah, it's just a nice particle system, you know. Of course, you can play around. What I'd say is you might have to play around with the mapping. Like I said, like you can see here, it's doing half of the tube now. I mean, it looks cool still. But yeah, like you can go in here and you can play around. So this was the triplanar. Perhaps the triplanar didn't work, you know, from above. No, let's try. I'm just going to click on different ones and see. Let's do simple spherical, completely different look and feel. Even the glow effect, the way it's affecting the glow, but it's still cool, you know. You know, we get a completely different look. But yeah, hopefully this is useful, some sort of, I don't know, some use. You can even animate these. If you wanted these to animate, that would be cool too. You know, you can have those. You know, though, where they have those lights and they strobe up. You could do those. to, you don't have to animate it like flickering on and off. You can animate them going up and down. Yeah. But yeah, that's just like I said. Let's go to UV0. So now after like that, I'm gonna reset everything here, and I'll just scale that texture. So maybe I'll scale down the X. Oh, the X doesn't do anything. Can we move the Y position? No, that's the Y. Move the X. What's the X do? No. So let's tweak our gradient. See if this has any effect on it. And tighten this. Okay, so this is affecting the height. I wonder if I was to say horizontal. Yeah, just play around with it, like experiment. But there you go, got some kind of flickering lights. Hopefully this was useful. I don't know, maybe not. Let me know. But also change that strength. There you go. Got neon lights. And then of course you can animate, like I said, you can animate this phase. You know, maybe you want it to move. Wiggling lights. There's no rules to what you create, you know. But particle systems are cool, you know. I've been playing a lot in the last month with the particle systems, creating all kinds of things and trying to understand how to control stuff. So it's cool that I can, you know, use it to apply it to something else. And you know, okay. Enjoy your day, morning, evening, or night. Thank you again. Bye bye.